review today. And before we do that, we are going to be reviewing 2 lessons, diving into a summary for each. But before we do that, we are going to just do a quick review of the preceding lessons leading up to today's. So with that, I will go ahead and dive on in. Lesson 40, I am blessed as a son of God. Lesson 41, God goes with me wherever I go. Lesson 42, God is my strength. Vision is his gift. Lesson 43, God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. Lesson 44, God is a light in which I see. Lesson 45, God is the mind with which I think. Lesson 46, God is the love in which I forgive. Lesson 47, God is the strength in which I trust. Lesson 48, there is nothing to fear. Lesson 49, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Lesson 50, I am sustained by the love of God. Lesson 61, I am the light of the world. Lesson 62, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Lesson 63, the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Lesson 64, let me not forget my function. Lesson 65, my only function is the one God gave me. Lesson 66, my happiness and my function are one. And lesson 67, which we're going to be diving deeper into in today's review. Lesson 67, love created me like itself. I am in the likeness of my creator. I cannot suffer, I cannot experience loss, and I cannot die. I am not a body. I would recognize my reality today. I will worship no idols, nor raise my own self-concept to replace myself. I am in the likeness of my creator. Love created me like itself. You might find these specific forms helpful in applying today's idea. Let me not see an illusion of myself in this. As I look upon this circumstance, let me remember my creator. My creator did not create this as I see it. Y'all, I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks. It's challenging. You know, it's such a challenging concept because it's so outside of the realm of what we currently think about. So it's really introducing a new thought. It's introduced, a couple weeks ago when we first reviewed this lesson, and then it's coming back now. And so this thought that we cannot suffer, which is just crazy. It's kind of a brand new way of thinking and a brand new way of existing in the world. And hasn't been something, at least that for me, that I was introduced to at a young age. There's this concept of we are not a body, and we are not, like, this world is just the physical dimension. And I even had, I guess you could say, kind of a vision 2 years ago where I had my eyes closed and I just saw all of a sudden, like, how this reality connects with kind of like the spiritual reality. And again, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about this. However, it does add in a new layer, a new dimension. Like, God is outside of time. He looks at time and it's just, it's linear, it's flat in so many ways, and yet God exists outside of it. And we have the opportunity to take that, to kind of like rise up and take a transcendent view of like, oh, look at this world, look at time, look at past, present, future. And we have this opportunity to realize. Yesterday we were talking about how, very briefly, I mentioned, I do believe that there is a world after this. And I do believe that there's life after this. And for me, that brings me hope. I want to see my brother-in-law again. I want to see my grandma again. All the people that have gone before us. For our wonderful friend DJ last night, he was sharing, being the survivor and struggling with survivor's guilt. If we do believe in something beyond just this world, and it's almost like, how can we not? Because we're not physically of this world. Like, we are not of this world in so many ways. Our souls are not physical. It's not something to see and touch. And although somebody did say something so fascinating, it blew me away. They said that, and actually I need to go research this. I don't just want to take their word for it, but they said that it is when somebody dies, it's like literally when they die, they actually lose weight. I think that they lose like 9 pounds. And so they were joking. They're like, our soul is 9 pounds. And I was like, that just blew my mind. So I need to look into whether that's true or not. But y'all, the point here is that this world, this flesh layer, this is not the end all be all. And so for us to live like this is it, there's something very limiting about that, and also something very hopeless about that. And we start realizing like, oh man, love has an existence outside of time, which is God himself. How much more so do we? If we're created like him, if we are created in the likeness of our creator, how much more so do we actually get to participate in the attributes that are like him, which is the existence outside of time. And so this is where, from my very limited knowledge, quantum physics come into play, which is going to be a study of mine. Honestly, I think I'm going to start studying it later in the year. I really, really want to do my best to understand as much as I can. And it's really about effectively how do we live in that place of like the fullness of who we can be. And so I want to better understand it for myself. But this whole concept of love created me like itself adds an element of like, okay, I am created more like God than anything around here on this physical world. And so I actually do have the ability to take God's bird's eye view on the world and not be of the circumstance that we find ourselves in, like tethered to and tied to and beholden to the suffering around us. We actually, in taking that kind of outside view, we get to see and love like God. And that changes everything entirely. And so let's go on to lesson 68, the review for that. Love holds no grievances. Grievances are completely alien to love. Grievances attack love and keep its light obscure. If I hold grievances, I am attacking love and therefore attacking myself. Myself thus becomes alien to me. I am determined not to attack myself today so that I can remember who I am. These specific forms of applying this idea would be helpful. This is no justification, this circumstance. This is no justification for denying myself. I would not use this circumstance, situation to attack love. Let this not tempt me to attack myself. Y'all, when we were doing this lesson and diving into it, there were kind of 3 different things that stood out to me in terms of consequences of having grievances and holding grievances. One, when we reduce that person to what they do and say, you are now no longer worthy of love because of what you've done, we're reducing the person to no longer their inner being, but their physical self. So we're actually saying you are not who you are, who you truly are. We're not remembering the truth about them. We're not remembering their identity. We're not remembering who God says that they are. But here's the thing. When we do that to them, we effectively are damning our own selves, because the way that we look at others is going to be the way that we look at ourselves, and vice versa. So if I am damning somebody by their action and by what they do and saying who you are is now defined by what you do, rather than the other way around, and saying, I can see God in you and see who he says you are. Well, yes, you're doing something completely, potentially horrific, and you've got to be held responsible for that. But it's almost like, man, if we're assigning people's value by what they do. Yesterday we were talking about shame. Shame looks at what you do and says that is who you are. And so God instead says, you are not what you do. Let me call you higher, remind you of who you are, and thus change your action to align with who I say you are, which is loved and worthy. And yes, it is our choice about if our doing and our actions are going to align with the identity God gave us as kind of like our birthright. But for so long as we are holding others accountable in terms of like what they do and defining their inner world and inner self as a result of what they do, we are also doing that for ourselves. And thus, here's the other thing. So we mirror them because we're both creations. We were both created. But the thing is that if we believe what Lesson 67 says, love created me like itself. Not only am I holding them and damning them by what they do, and thus reducing both of us to move outside of our identity, thus we also are doing the same to God because we are a mirror of him. So it goes both ways. I am looking at this person that I am judging, holding grievances over, being furious at, and the same judgment I'm applying to them, I'm applying to myself. And I cannot but inevitably hold that same judgment to God because I am made in his image. So us holding grievances is far more damning than any of us could have ever realized because of this kind of triad approach and how much it so impacts the way we view ourselves, the way we view others in the world, and the way we view God himself. So holding on to grievances is so incredibly damaging for all three of those reasons. And in addition, if you want to go even deeper than that, it tethers us to the past. Again, 2 nights ago, we talked about this example of in the Christmas Carol, Jacob Marley, who's the ghost of Ebenezer Scrooge, who's the hero of the film. He's covered in chains, and each chain, each link, he says, yard by yard, I grew this tethering to the past with every unresolved conflict, every act of injustice, every bit that he did not forgive and let go and act rightly and justly. He tethered himself further to the past, and thus he could not actually proceed into the future. Grievances are like that. We are tethering ourselves rather permanently to the past, and we are not free. We're not free to be here in this moment. We're not free to love. So with that, let me go ahead and jump here into the chat. Good morning, my friends. My sweet mama, Ellen Hoffman, first one. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. Jack, good morning. NRV, good morning. Precious blood of Jesus, good morning. Wild one, oh, thank you. Olive, how do I subscribe? Oh, we don't, I'm just gonna put you on timeout because we don't talk like that. Gutam, hello. RC, metal, shredder. It's so interesting. I had a dream about what our bodied life teaches us. It's learning for our souls. Interesting. I love that's so beautiful. Gutam says awakened aren't allowed to stay happy by letting the world suffer. I think that actually the result of us coming in and loving the world that is suffering actually produces happiness and joy. I think joy is actually the byproduct of us walking in the fullness of our identity in so many ways. It's actually the fruit of it. That's where it's actually really important for us to know what are, in business, we call it KPIs, key performance indicators. What are the indicators that I'm on the right track? And I actually think joy is something that is a byproduct of love and a byproduct of living rightly and living in alignment with our identity. I will say that's a KPI for me. I do look at kind of the universal law of cause and effect. And if I'm living right and loving, I've seen that, that's the effect. But I also know people like my mama who joined us this morning. She is like a warrior, and freaking called herself a dragon slayer. And so I've had to let go of the fact that my mom actually may not be destined to live a life of joy. She actually might find she might be one of those people that is called or charged to be a fighter. And, I still kind of think, and the reason why I think this is because there's this concept of the fruit of the Spirit of Christ and the Spirit of God living in you is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. There's 9 of them. And so I still do hold a belief that I think that those are going to be the fruit of when you are living that way. And I also know that the manifestation of it, again, there's such a difference. My inner world versus my external action. Joy doesn't mean I'm walking around with a happy smile all the time. Joy actually might be, I've got hope in spite of this. Joy is, I can see outside of what's happening here and now. And so I think that to your point, I think it's so nuanced and so dynamic. And frankly, I'd love to hear others' insight on this. 3Rip3, good morning. Thank you, Yash. Good morning. Would be Bara. JHY, thank you. The world's lucky to have you, my friend. Todd, good morning. Persian. Jack says, no, the soul doesn't weigh anything. It was a false study. All right, good. I'm glad. I'm assuming you looked that up. I've got to look it up too. Nothing comes for free. Awakening has its own payable journey. What a word. Yes, I completely agree. Oh, man. Nathan, good morning. Stouts, pray for NYC mayor. I will. Sam, good morning. All right, I am just scrolling down here. Benjamin, good morning. Yes, Benjamin Rush. Yes, I do, my friend. I hope you do too. Jerry, the Pope. Jerry, just so you know, in terms of what the I guess you could say topic. Steve, good morning. The topic for the early morning shows is we actually do dive into the goal of just the knowing show in general is the cultivation of the human intelligence. It is how do we compete with artificial intelligence and how do we actually really cultivate who we are, because it is so incredibly easy to surrender our intellect to these AI tools, bots. And it also is incredibly easy to surrender even EQ. We're finding more and more people finding solace and respite in AI companions because we ourselves are not cultivated enough, knowing who we are and thus being able to produce empathy to meet other people where they're at. We're not taught relationships in schools. We're not taught emotional intelligence. We've been overemphasized in terms of importance in IQ. And also there's a couple other intelligences that make us human. The physical intelligence, the physical body. What does our body know? What does our body remember? Bessel van der Kolk wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and he was pretty pivotal as he was, as PTSD was coming around and being defined and investigated. And he really helped kind of move us forward in understanding how the body really retains memory and how actually, and for this was a breakthrough study at the time. Talk therapy did nothing because the body keeps the score. The body remembers. And so he did study after study of all these war veterans and also people who had gone through real significant trauma and how it's literally staved in the body. And so we've got intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, physical intelligence. We also have spiritual intelligence. We have this where I think most of us would have this concept of like, I don't know how I knew it, but I just did. That's through spiritual intelligence. And so our spirits, souls, mind, body, all parts of us need to be cultivated. And so in the morning show, we talk really about the cultivation of the mind and the spirit. In the evening show, we talk more so about the intellect and the emotion. In fact, today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we have an incredible guest coming on where we're going to be talking a lot about the cultivation of the intellectual intelligence and the emotional. It's so important. Guys, it's so important that we do take this time to honor our own bodies and our own selves. Are we actually cultivating this precious vessel that is you and me? Gold Fisherman, good to see you. Thanks for joining. The Zcon, I see I need to go back to school. How to talk like you. Practice, I will say. The Rock Shaman, she puts you in the chat, or this channel puts you in timeout when you disagree. No, it's when there's inappropriate context. So feel free to disagree in a polite way. The rules are, y'all, I will say the rules of etiquette are really the rules of etiquette for just life in general, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we honor that. And I take that seriously because the chat is a place where we really want to have meaningful conversation. So that's the goal. All right, I am going to jump off here, y'all. Thank you so much for joining this morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. Florence says, where are you from? I'm from just outside of Washington, D.C. I grew up in Maryland, and that's where I was born and raised. Y'all, we are going to be playing trivia today at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to go ahead and create the calendar invite for that and to put on our calendar. 7 p.m. Eastern, trivia today. And then we're also going to be having one of the most incredible humans I've met yet at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we're talking about the intermix of EQ and IQ in business and relationships. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be playing trivia. So, user, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Thomas, Jeffrey, good morning. Jack says, what are you reading? I was reading A Course in Miracles earlier. Oh, Paxton, good morning. Loved your shame stream yesterday. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you for inspiring that. That was because of you that we talked about it. For those of you who didn't join last night, we talked about shame and really how to get free from it. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Paxton. Jake, good morning. Thanks for being encouraging. Some guy, good morning. Angel, thanks for hanging out. Katara says your name. My name's Christene Marie. It's good to meet you. Good morning. I'm doing good. It's early here. I'm in Arizona today, and it was nice to hop on at 6 a.m. I was on a call yesterday with somebody, and they were like, "Hey, can you come speak to our group?" They're in Manhattan at 8 a.m. And I was like, "That's going to be a 5 a.m. for me on Friday." So it's been fun getting adjusted to the time difference, but I've got some early mornings. Chris McMillan, good morning. God is great. I love that. I don't know what that means. Abby, good morning. All right. Gary, good morning. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Just a quick review of the lessons that we reviewed. Lesson 67, love created me like itself, and lesson 68, love holds no grievances. Y'all, if we could figure out how to let go of these grievances, I think we would all live in so much more freedom, and really being able to experience and walk in the fullness of who we were created to be. And I love this. The rock shaman says you can't intellectualize spirituality. It didn't come from a book. That's why we need intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence. The spirit itself holds data, and it holds memories, and it holds literally information for us to know and learn from. And it really is the pathway to understanding like these secret treasures. In so many ways, I feel like there's revelations for every single one of us. And this is also where we are so different from each other. You're going to get an understanding spiritually that I'm not, and vice versa. And this is why we need each other in so many ways. So already have a wonderful day. I already need to hop off. I'm late. Y'all have a good day. I will talk to you today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern for trivia. Have a good day, y'all. Bye.